Hi, and thank you for joining us at This Week in Video Marketing. Today we're going to be talking about the products affecting video marketing that were just announced out of the Consumer Electronics Show. But first, here's a quick tip to get you started. If you want to maximize Facebook engagement, now's the time to be uploading your videos into Facebook. Now, you're going to get better Facebook engagement results if you do it this way. And at WireBuzz, what we've been seeing is an average of roughly 50% more reach on videos posted that are uploaded into Facebook versus YouTube links that are posted on Facebook. So use YouTube uploaded videos for other locations, and on next week's episode we're going to talk about when to use YouTube and other players. But this episode is brought to you by WireBuzz, the leading video marketing agency specializing in video, strategy, and results. So if you need to boost your sales results, increase your conversion rates, or advance your email marketing or SEO, social engagement, WireBuzz can help. Now, CES 2015 took place this week in Las Vegas, and it's always an exciting time if you're a gadget geek like I am. And some of the newly announced products that were released, or at least announced, I should say, will have a major impact on video marketing, and that's why Stronz Vanderploeg, WireBuzz's Director of Video Production, is with me. Hi, Stronz.
Hey, Todd. How's it going?
It's going really well, man. Now, I know you've been following it all week like I have. We've been reading all the articles, and one of the most important developments coming out of CES for video marketing is the release of new 4K cameras and televisions. Now, we've been using 4K here at WireBuzz for our client projects for the last year or so, but for Stronz, for those who may not know about 4K, can you give them a quick overview on 4K and really how that fits into the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pretty cool week to see all the stuff at CES happening, and 4K has been one of those dreams that was kind of brought to the forefront back in 2007 by Red Digital Cinema, and they kind of made this push for 4K, which is essentially 4 times the resolution of 1080p, which most people are familiar with. It's on their TV, everything's in 1080. Well, 4K, or Ultra HD as some people call it, is essentially 4 times that resolution, so you're looking at clearer, sharper picture, more detail, which is, for most videos, really important.
And one of the things that happens on YouTube is it defaults right now to 360p, but as we're starting to see higher resolutions, you can toggle down and watch it in HD, but before you know it, with available bandwidth, we're going to be watching all of this content in 4K, and it's going to be a really remarkable user experience. We say internally that video is what makes the internet interesting and what makes it fun, and it's really about the available bandwidth. Without the available bandwidth, we're all watching things in 360 or 480, but now as bandwidth is, in fact, Stronz, I haven't told you this, but I got notification yesterday that Cox Communication is setting my house up tomorrow with 1 gig downstream service, and I'll get to tell everybody here on This Week in Video Marketing of what that's like. But I remember the first time I heard about or was teased about fiber, and it was when I was at a meeting with Google, and it's so amazing to see how those market forces are moving things downstream, so to speak. So now we're incorporating 4K into our projects. Why is it important for companies to be interested in when they're dealing with video marketing to be considering 4K?
Well, as you mentioned, YouTube was one of the first platforms to really implement 4K streaming, and now Netflix is at it. I believe Amazon Prime and Vimeo have also started implementing 4K in their streaming capabilities. And when you're a company and you want to look top of the line and you want to portray yourself as beating the leader, having that top tier format, whether it was 1080 a couple years ago or now 4K, it's really important because it establishes your brand, especially if competitors are doing 4K and you're down here. I remember couple months ago, Apple announced their 5K iMac displays, and the announcement video on YouTube was in 720p. And so even if you had a 5K display, you're watching not even 1080p video, and it still hasn't been uploaded in a higher resolution. So I don't know what Apple is doing there, but it's just kind of, you look kind of silly if you're especially a top tier company like Apple advocating for like being the top of the line and not delivering that across the board.
Right. It's not practicing what you're preaching, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are people who are still on dial-up and slower internet speeds, but the nice thing about a lot of these platforms, especially YouTube, is that when you upload at that highest resolution possible, whether it's 4K or 2K, YouTube automatically encodes it at lower resolution. So you're taking that, the highest quality possible, and making it available for pretty much everyone. So it's not like the lower speed internet people can't see that content on YouTube. Other platforms, it's a little bit different, so you always have to keep that in mind with where you're uploading video. But now with 4K, it's really phenomenal, especially with Cox and Google Fiber offering these higher speed internet services. It just makes video look even better.
Yeah, it tends to be a game changer. I know we film 4K when we go out to client projects, and clients are blown away when they see what 4K looks like, because it's just remarkable. But what about businesses that have existing HD content? Is that content now obsolete?
No, and that's not to say that 1080 is bad. I mean, even you can watch some old stuff that was filmed 4:3 standard def, and it still looks good. In fact, a lot of people film 4K just to down convert it to 1080 so they can have some options in reframing, because you have all that extra resolution, right? It's what photographers have been doing for years, where they take a photo that has so much resolution in it, and then they can use it and they can crop in, they can do what they need to make it match their final format. So if old stuff is in 1080 or 720 or even standard def, it doesn't mean it's obsolete. It still has its purpose. But you'll find that a lot of that older content just doesn't stand up in visual fidelity to some of the newer stuff with what these newer cameras are offering.
Yeah, recently we had a client that wanted us to use some existing footage. We reviewed that existing footage. Some of it was shot in HD and was acceptable. The other content looked very outdated. And so it's a great opportunity to start refreshing your brand. And yet there's some areas where your existing content will work, and that's kind of a finesse point that we're going through right now in the video marketing landscape. I have a 4K TV. You advised me on picking out the right one. I was grateful to have you in my back pocket when I had to go TV shopping. But there isn't a lot of programming right now that's coming out in 4K. With the developments out of CES, it sounds like 4K is the everybody's rolling out or announcing a 4K TV. How does the products coming out affect market and demand and what we're eventually going to be shooting for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, there's people who compare 4K to 3D, that it's just a fad and you don't need it, and 1080 HD is all you need. But it's really, in video, there's so many different factors in the marketplace that affect whether it's from acquisition of just having the cameras that can film 4K, to having computers that can edit the higher quality footage, to having, like you mentioned, TVs and monitors and displays that can even show 4K, and it's true glory. And then on top of that, you have internet providers who have to offer the speed so you can see that. And so there's all these things, and they're kind of, some things have been getting ahead, where cameras have been pushing ahead to higher and higher resolutions. You have cameras now that 5K and 6K and 8K even, and now the displays are becoming more affordable. I'd actually even say that the 4K displays are becoming more affordable than the 1080 ones did. I remember, 10 years ago when HD was coming to the forefront, a lot of people were upset by how expensive these TVs were. They wanted it, they saw how much better it was, but they couldn't afford it. There's 4K TVs now that are sub $1,000, and the price has just come down so much because electronics are getting so cheap that it's really cool to see all these things kind of catching up with one another. And people who were filming 4K back in 2007, 2008, 2009 were able to kind of future-proof their content, and the earlier you get in on that, the better you're going to be long-term, because I don't see 4K going away. I think from CES, we've pretty much seen that even consumer camcorders are getting this implemented. Phones are having 4K video. So keeping your content future-proof is really smart, and the kind of best thing you can do for now and a couple years down the road.
Future-proofing your content. That would have been a hell of a good title for our discussion, right? Because that's really what it is. It's about making sure that your investment today is a resource that's going to be useful and effective going forward. Really well said, Stronz. Vimeo is letting pro users upload videos in 4K. That was just announced at CES. There's going to be an impact that's going to have on on video marketing. You know, they're letting users upload 4K but not stream in 4K, and streaming in 4K is obviously a future product release, don't you think?
It just depends on the platform. I mean, YouTube has had 4K for a couple years now, and you know, while cat videos might not be the most important thing to see in 4K, there are certainly companies or businesses or users who want to showcase their video content in the highest quality possible, especially when you have, like, the computer I'm looking at, the display is higher than 1080p. So even that HD, the top tier, isn't enough to accurately fill in all the pixels on the screen, and this is it's not a ridiculous computer to have. A lot of people have iMacs. So when you're looking at stuff like that, or even a lot of tablets now have higher than 1080p displays, it's just a good thing to have to ensure that your content, that what you're paying for, what you're producing, is going to hold up, and it's not like you're going to have to reshoot it a year or two down the road because your competitor has such better looking material. And that's just an evaluation you have to make when you're looking at it. Does it look old? Does it look outdated? How does this relate to my brand, and how does it make me look? It's really important stuff to consider.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point. Now, can we talk about another product that we saw, or a service that we thought was really interesting? Dish Network Sling TV was just announced. Why do you think that's exciting?
I think it's exciting because I am a cord cutter. I don't have a traditional cable box. I got rid of that a year ago and haven't looked back since. It's been great. But there are occasions where, you know, you want to have the game on ESPN, or you want to watch live TV, whether it be news or what have you. And having a streaming service like Sling TV that streams TV, live TV, via the internet for $20 a month, and you get, I think they said, like 20 channels currently. They're going to add more. It's just a really cool way that the market is advancing and moving away from traditional cable providers, because as many people say, you know, the younger generation, they don't want to watch cable TV. We all kind of want what we're looking for, content on demand, what we want to watch, and just having another outlet available, whether you want to buy it or not, is more than welcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're really seeing a big trend in the history books of entertainment. What we're really seeing is the breaking up of the centrally planned broadcast networks, and now the game's flipped over to real consumer demand. It's not so much what they're pushing and your options on what's being pushed at you. It's really pulling out what's of interest. And that's a really exciting time to be living. It fits well into the video marketing space. You can always be creating interesting and relevant content for your audience, for your target customer, and provide that to them, and then introduce them to your product, your service, or even your experts. And that's where video marketing really comes in and is a game changer. And it's nice to see these little pieces of technology and new services coming out at CES that make things more accessible to the end user, more engageable to an online viewer. Stronz, a very interesting speaker came out called Amazon Echo. It piqued our interest. What do you think is cool about Amazon Echo?
So Amazon Echo was announced a couple months back, and they are available for limited purchase. You have to kind of be invited to get one of these. And I don't know that this device necessarily is a game changer in itself, but it paves the way, or shows a trend that we're seeing, of there's more and more ways for people to consume content. You know, it used to be that you had a radio, and then it was, okay, now we have a TV and it has 3 channels, and you had to turn a knob to go from one, between the different channels, and then, okay, now we've expanded to 100 channels, and now we have satellite with over 1,000 channels, and now we have YouTube and Netflix and Hulu and all these things, and there's so much content, and there's all these groups and subgroups looking for content that's relevant to them. And now we have things like Amazon Echo, where it's essentially kind of an on-demand music player or radio that you can just have in your house. You kind of give it voice commands, and it'll play what you want to hear. Now, that's really interesting for music especially, but also for podcasts. Most people are familiar with the idea of listening to AM or FM radio, but that's, you got to tune in at a specific time, whether it's noon to 3 or what have you. With podcasts, you're able to listen to what you want to listen to, when you want to listen to it, and not being tied to necessarily your phone or your computer, having a device that is in your house, whether it's the Amazon Echo or in the future a microwave or a fridge, whatever smart device it is in your house that's connected to the internet, being able to play that content that you want to hear is so valuable because it just gives people more and more options to explore or learn or just be entertained by what they're interested in.
Yeah, I think there's a real practical application for podcasts. If, for those of you that are watching, behind Stronz is the video team here at WireBuzz, and they're editing and cranking out some videos for clients. But if you pulled them away from their work, which I don't recommend doing, and you ask them what they're listening to when they're on their way to work, almost every one of them is are listening to podcasts instead of traditional radio, and that allows us to really narrowcast. The podcasts that I listen to, and I know Stronz and I travel for client shoots all the time, so we talk podcasts while we're sitting on a Southwest flight somewhere over the Midwest. And one of the things that we love about podcasts is it's very, instead of broadcasting like a traditional radio station would, this is narrowcasting in most cases, where you can get very specific topics. Like this HOA, this Hangout on Air that we're doing on Google+, the guys in the back room will strip out the video and we'll upload it as a podcast. So people that are interested in video marketing can then listen to it as they're in a car. And you think about it, on average, the daily commute one way is 19 minutes, which is the perfect length of a podcast, and we're roughly in that range right now. So how you repurpose that content and use it to help attract or engage your target customer to bring them in to your sphere of influence is a really wonderful tool, and you can see that companies like Amazon are really trying to tap into that audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a video guy. I love video watching. Beautiful imagery is what I love. But part of video oftentimes is the audio. And when you're driving or you're cooking or you're doing the laundry, your eyes can't be tied to a screen. And so having that kind of secondary input from audio, whether it's music or a podcast, is so valuable because you can, rather than being stuck bored with your own thoughts, you could be learning or finding out new information or just being entertained by a funny show, whatever it is. And so that kind of, I know a lot of people think that the way that the generations have gone is that now people have to be, they always need something. It's like an ADD culture. We have to have something in front of our face. But how many times in the past were people sitting at doctors' offices bored because they didn't have a game on their iPhone to play? They just had to sit there and look at the magazine that was in front of them, and they were forced to do that. Now we're living in an age where you can listen to, watch whatever you want to watch when you want to watch it, and that's, for me, that's really cool.
It is for me too. I'm the guy at the gym that you think I'm listening to music, but I'm really listening to digital marketing podcasts because I'm a geek and I need to make sure I'm getting the best information as soon as it's rolled out so it has impact on our client projects. And I know you use them the same way, Stronz. Now, at CES 2015 in Las Vegas, drones were very, very popular. The reports out of Vegas were that if you took one step outside of the conference, drones were flying everywhere, okay? But if you went inside the building, you walked through the vendor booths, drones had to be, if you were a manufacturer demoing your new drone, they had to be inside of cages. And so drones were lifting up and so on. Stronz, what should people be looking for if they're purchasing a drone? I think 4K resolution, if the camera is already built into the drone. Talk to me about that.
Well, 4K on a drone, as you just mentioned, I'll touch on that real quick, is really important because if the drone is shaky or unstable, that extra resolution definitely gives you a little wiggle room in post-production to stabilize it if you need to. But specifically in regards to what you're looking for in a drone, I think you always want to go for what's affordable for your budget first and foremost, and something that if you're using it for video or aerial photography or you just want to have fun, you have to keep that in mind because certain drones are built for certain things. Some are very agile and quick and are used for tricks, and people just want to fly them around as kind of that's their hobby. And other people are looking at for video like what I would be looking for, and that's something that is smooth, is stable, has all the features I need, like first-person view flying, so I can see what the camera is filming. All that stuff is really important, and the drone world has caused a lot of maybe controversy lately with people worried about injury. I know there have been some horror stories at weddings or at restaurants where people were doing things with drones. and it's a new market. You know, you have people who are unfamiliar with the technology operating it, and they are fairly affordable, so they're kind of, everyone's getting access to them. I think we just need to, you know, make sure everyone's being safe, obviously, with them, adhere to any rules and regulations that may be put in place. But I am worried that there might be a little bit too much rule and regulation as kind of a backlash to this, like, oh, people are afraid that these are going to start injuring people. So I think as long as people are safe and they're being cautious with them, understanding that they are somewhat dangerous, actually very dangerous, that's going to protect us, you know, video people especially, from dealing with unwanted rules and regulations down the road in regards to what we can and can't do, and that's already starting to happen. But I'm hoping that it doesn't get too out of control, because they are such a powerful tool for creating awesome-looking video.
Yeah, they really are. Now, just before Christmas, the FAA released its new drone flying guidelines, and they were smart enough to do it in a video. And the reason they did that, by the way, I pushed it out, so it'll be in my feed on Google Plus if you want to go look at the FAA drone guidelines. But the reason they used video is it's going to have significantly higher engagement rates. They're also going to watch it. They're more likely to remember it. 68% retention rate on a video and information in the video, as opposed to 11% if they wrote it in text. So, and it's also got 3 times more social share. So there are all these reasons why the FAA selected to use video for that. But if you are going to be deploying a drone on behalf of your video marketing efforts, by all means look at that video so you don't get yourself in trouble. The effects of products rolling out at CES is, we're really going to start seeing it in the coming months as it pertains to your video marketing strategy. Stronz mentioned it very well about future-proofing your video content, and you're going to want to do that with 4K resolution. And it's a really interesting day as this new technology is coming out. We're able to cater to client needs in really high cinematic quality, and that's wonderful. If your brand has any attachment to quality, if quality is a message that you're trying to get across, make sure you start with the highest quality resolution possible within financial limitations. And so that's why we kind of gave you a good overview on that today. Stronz, anything else at a CES that you wanted to mention while we're here with our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I had one more thing I'd like to add, is just that I think it's pretty obvious how important video is. I think most people engaging online in the digital space understand that video is important. But if you haven't gotten it yet, is when you're looking at even this news coming out of CES, there's absolute value to small text snippets with a picture, just giving you kind of brief highlights. But if you want to actually know and understand a product or a service that's coming out, almost all of the content coming out of CES was done through video, and it's because it's such an effective format for conveying information, but doing it quickly at the same time. You know, imagine having to read a 2,500 word article, and yeah, there's people who can speed read, but you still have to imagine what it's looking like in your head. Video, a 5 to 10 minute video, you can understand the product and its services and what it's offering. It's just so apparent how important video is for now and the foreseeable future.
Yeah, very well said. Look, next week, right here on This Week in Video Marketing, interesting how that happens, we're going to be talking about video hosting, when to use YouTube as your primary video player, and when YouTube isn't the right video player. And that comes up all the time in clients, because for us, there's a major fork in the road when we start to talk strategy with a client. We want to know what their objectives are, what the results that they're looking for, and at some point in that conversation, the strategy's split off. YouTube may not be the best option for you, and a third-party player maybe. We're going to be discussing those details next week on this program, and Marcus Krieg, WireBuzz's Director of Strategy and Optimization, will be with me, and we'll also be watching the feed on the events page throughout the coming days. So if any of you have a question for Stronz or myself about CES or about video marketing, by all means post it there. We'll read it and reply back. So on behalf of Stronz, myself, and the crew here at WireBuzz, we wish you guys all a very prosperous week, and look forward to having you back next week right here. Oh, let me tell you what time next week is. It's different than today. So next week is Thursday, January 15th, right? And that'll be at 11 a.m. Mountain Time because we're in Scottsdale, Arizona. And we'll look forward to sending out announcements to all of you that are following. So on behalf of the crew, wish you guys a very great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Oh, have a great weekend. Start happy hour early if you can. Bye-bye.